friends, it's Miss Dom, and today we are going to be doing an activity that I call transparent circles. It is a painting and paint mixing exercise, and you're going to need some paper, a pencil, and some things that are round that you can trace. So these are the things that I use, and then I had a big lid. So I wanted to have a variety of circle shapes. So I sort of have a small, a medium, and a large. And I traced those circles onto a piece of paper. And you can see here that I've started. So what I've done is when I trace the circles on, some things I want you to notice, some things I'd like for you to do when you do this, and you know, your circles will probably be different sizes, and you know, depending on the size, you may have more or less circles, but notice that the circles overlap. Okay, so each circle is overlapping with at least one other circle. In some cases, like this large one, it's overlapping with multiple circles. And notice some of those larger circles are going right off the edge of the paper. Some of the medium-sized ones are going off the edge of the paper as well. So as you trace your circles, think about trying to overlap at least one other circle with your circle, and try to have some of those circles going off the edge of the paper, so you've filled up most of the space with circles. Now you'll notice there's still some empty spaces in here, and I didn't do anything with those empty spaces. If you want to add some pattern in there or do something different with those empty spaces, that's fine. You can go further with this, but basically I drew the circles, I made sure that they overlapped, and then I painted the parts of the circles that are not overlapping with another circle with a primary color. Okay, so this part of the circle is not overlapping with other circles. Here, where these two overlap, I haven't painted that part yet. That's where we're going to do the mixing, and that's the part that I'm going to demonstrate. Okay, so everywhere where they overlap, you can see I've left it blank. Now this circle is inside this larger circle, so the entire circle is overlapping. So that one hasn't been colored in at all, but you can kind of get the idea. Okay, so if you need to pause this and go ahead and find your circle shapes, I started with pencil, and then I traced it with Sharpie. You don't have to trace it with Sharpie. If you don't have a Sharpie, don't worry about it. Hopefully you have some paint. If you don't have paint, it is possible to do this with crayon, by overlapping your crayon colors and blending them, or some other medium, whatever you have available. But I think paint's the easiest, and I used watercolor paint. You could do this with other types of paint as well. Make sure if you're using a paint like acrylic that you're being very careful, because that is a permanent paint, and so you want to make sure you wash everything up right away when you're using that type of paint. Okay, so if you've got your circles and you've drawn them, once again, I've only painted the parts that are not overlapping with primary colors. So primary colors being yellow, red, and blue. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the demonstration part of this. And like I said, I'm using watercolor. It's a little bit messy. But what I'm going to be doing is basically using the lid of my watercolors as the place where I'm going to mix my colors. All right, so I'm going to start with my yellow mixes. I'm going to start with some yellow. So I'm going to get some yellow, and let me just set this down so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm getting my yellow, and then I'm putting it onto the lid. All right, so I'm just kind of dripping it on there. I'm going to rinse off my brush, and then I'm going to get some blue. Okay. So I'm going to get some blue, and if you're using watercolors, you're going to have a really wet brush, and I'm mixing those together, and you can sort of see how I'm getting a green in there. Okay, so wherever I have the blue overlapping with yellow. That's where I'm going to put that green color. I've got one over here. That's about it. Okay, for my green. Maybe I'll put some green up in here as well, since I don't have a lot of green. So let's imagine that there's a blue circle. And so that. Alright, so now I'm going to rinse off my brush. And I'm going to get some yellow again. Put it on my palette. And I'm getting lots of water. And now I'm going to mix it with a red. I'm actually using a magenta, so sort of a lighter red. And I'm mixing that up. And I'm getting an orange color. Okay, so my orange color is going to go wherever I have my magenta and red overlapping. Sort of looks like a tennis ball. Let me get on there. It's a little bit murky because the lid of my palette wasn't very clean. So you may want to mix your colors on, sometimes I use tin foil because it doesn't go through, it doesn't soak in, it just sits on the surface. So sometimes when I'm at home, when I'm mixing colors, I mix on tin foil. Sometimes even in class we use tin foil to mix colors. Because like I said, it's sort of easy to find. Oh, I missed one of my blue areas. Okay. Well, that blue I need to mix with. The only place I have that color. Alright. So I've got one more color mix to do, and that is the blue and magenta. So once again, I'm finding a spot on my palette here to do my mixing. Dipping my brush in the water every time I want to change colors. So you see me dipping a lot. So you want to rinse your brush between colors. And I'm going to try and get a nice violet or purple color. And I don't need a lot this time, but I only have that color in one. Alright, so now I sort of have created this illusion of these transparent circles that are overlapping with each other because where they overlap, I've added the color that it makes when they mix together. And again, if you want to do something with this negative space around the circles, you can. If you want to turn the circles into something, you can. But the idea is just to practice with your color mixing a little bit more and create an interesting abstract painting that has that illusion of circles that are transparent, overlapping with each other. So imagine maybe they're pieces of glass or clear plastic, that kind of thing. So have fun with it. Again, if you want to do more with this and maybe turn it into something, turn it into bubbles or whatever you can imagine it to be, you're welcome to do that. You can put them in a rainbow circle if you want to, but I just sort of put them randomly, again, making sure that they overlapped, and making sure some of them went to the edges of the paper. So I hope you have fun practicing with your color mixing, making those secondary colors, using the primary colors, and creating that illusion of transparent circles. See you next time.